introduce everybody now. So, all those from Sustainable Stow, we have, stand up please, Arnie Epstein. Yay. Elaine Sanfilippo, John San Germano, Carol Lynn, and Rick Lent, and Laura Reiner, and Dave Weber, right in the back. So you'll get a chance to talk to any of us later in the program. So let me just go through the agenda. I've done introductions. I will do a few more as we go through this. Then we'll have an introduction of just general the HeatSmart program and clean heating and cooling technology by Lisa Dobbs. So she's from Mass CEC and will give you some general understanding of that technology. Then we'll have our installers do the presentation. Boucher will do air source heat pumps. We'll have ground source heat pump done by Bill Wenslow. And then Rick Lent will talk about the incentives, rebates, financing, grants, and state assistance. I'll step in again and talk about next steps. We'll go general Q&A. So what we'd like to do is keep the questions during this period very general, not specific to your particular issue. And then we'll have talking and sign-ups. So we have two people who have just recently had their installations done, homeowners that will be over here so you can talk directly to them. The installers will be back. You can talk to them. I know some of you have already done that. And then anybody from HeatSmart can talk to you about any questions you might have. We're a partnership with Hudson, and we have two people from Hudson here, which is great. So Jeanette Miller is the coach for Hudson. We also involve our municipal representatives. Tom Moser is from Hudson and Bill Wrigley from Stow. From the Hudson core team, what we have is Tom Green has been working on marketing, Brian White, digital platforms, and we've had also volunteers. Arnie is our technical advisor, so feel free to ask him technical questions. And Carol is our marketing person par excellence. We've done a lot of outreach, but let me just really quickly come to what we have. We've got a lot of input from people, and we had 165 people show interest between the two towns. Our installers have visited 170 homes, and we've got 27 contracts. But 27? Yeah, that's right. Thank you. As you can see, the division between air source heat pumps and ground source, because ground source is quite expensive and you really need the land to be able to do that. Although the advantages of ground source, being able to substitute completely for your oil, is quite impressive. Wanted to let you know that our program has extended. What we're doing is that to sign up on our website, the heatsmarths.org, for a site visit by HeatSmart installers needs to be completed by November 30th. You sign up in the Get Started area in our website. The program will end officially January 15th, which means deadline for signing any contracts that you would have. Here's a list of our team. Lisa Dobbs, you'll meet in a minute. Cadmus is our technical consultants who help us. Jeremy Koo, Kate Mueller, and from DOER, which is Mass Department of Energy Resources, Kelly Brown, who's been working with us quite closely, because through Sustainable Stow, we also got the Green Communities grant, which you saw probably in the Stow Independent recently, and Kelly's been our contact there. So our selected installers were Boucher Energy Systems and Bill Wenzel. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Lisa Dobbs.
Oh, great. Uh-oh. Okay. All right, excellent. I will keep it very brief today, but I just wanted to kind of come here, represent Mass CEC, talk a little bit about the program, and essentially talk a very high level on what the technologies are before we kick it off to the installers. And I'll also touch base a little bit on, I think, why this particular program is so unique and special, I think, to Hudson and Stow, particularly because of the Hudson Light Power opportunity that you have. So I'll touch on that a little bit as well. But essentially, the HeatSmart program is based off of partnerships, and that's why it's so successful, because it's truly a collaboration between Mass CEC and the Department of Energy Resources. We administer the program, offer levels of support and funding, marketing and education, and we also help administer some state incentive programs. Now, we of course are partnered with your community organizers, which is all the folks that were introduced here tonight. They did all of the hard work in selecting the installers. They went through a competitive installer selection process to really vet these installers for you and for your community needs. And they are doing all of the work on promoting the program, helping educate you, helping learn about technical pieces of the program. So definitely thank them if you ever get a chance. Your installer is a key, crucial part of this program as well. They are going to be your technical expert. So they are here to offer you free site assessments. And what they also are is essentially your turnkey contractor. So they're taking you from end to end. So they're going to offer you that free site assessment, talk about pricing and options, what'll work best for you. They'll take you all the way through contracting, installation, and beyond. So they're really a support mechanism for you as well, and a great partner in the program. You all, the community members, are also key to this program because one of the most important parts of this program is the grassroots nature of it and getting out there on the ground and telling people about the opportunity that's out here. Of course, learning about the opportunity yourself and hopefully installing these technologies, but really helping educate folks about these kind of lesser known technologies. So essentially, you're joining a cohort of another 4 other communities. They're also participating in the program. We've got Arlington and Winchester, Belmont, and also down in Marshfield are also participating with various technology promotion. There was also a round back in, I believe we technically did it in 2017, where Great Barrington, Nantucket, some neighbors, Bolton and Harvard, Concord, Carlisle, and Lincoln, well, that's it. So you're joining a really great group of really forward-thinking communities getting on the ground and trying to promote these technologies, and there's been some great success so far in the past few years. So very quickly, just wanted to kind of talk about the origin of the program and why we wanted to target clean heating and cooling. Essentially, Massachusetts has some Global Warming Solutions Act greenhouse gas emission reduction targets, trying to reduce by 25% by 2020 and by 80% by 2050. And that's a pretty big jump. So we've got a lot of work to do. And so we took a step back and thought, okay, well, where are all these emissions coming from? And if you see on this chart here, it's a little bit hard to read, but you can see that a lot of it is due to space cooling and heating, and also electricity. So you can see that a big chunk of the pie is likely due to what we're doing in our homes, buildings, and all that to both heat and cool them. So what better way to try to target those emissions and those reductions by getting out on the ground with technologies like these. So basically with clean heating and cooling, you've got this kind of multi-pronged solution where you're going to be able to have quality and comfort through these new technologies, decreased operational costs, which is something that they'll touch on a little bit later, and significantly lower greenhouse gas emission reductions. Or I'm sorry, lower greenhouse gas emissions. Oops. Yep, there we go. So through the program, communities do have the opportunity to promote one of 4 technologies: air source heat pumps, ground source, modern wood heating, and solar hot water. Got ahead of myself. But Hudson and Stow has elected for just specifically air source heat pumps and ground source heat pumps, or really the heat pump aspect of it. And this is a pretty exciting opportunity for Hudson and Stow, and I'll touch on a few reasons why that is specifically. But also there has been a new addition into the program as well that they're both educating on and installing, and that's heat pump hot water heaters, which again is just another version of a heat pump. So we'll talk about all those in just a minute. But one of the reasons I was basically alluding to earlier is taking a look at your municipal lighting plant, which is Hudson Light Power. Their electric supply is 92% non-carbon emitting, so it's one of the lowest in the state. So when you're considering the fact that we're taking a look here at essentially electrically sourced heating and cooling. You can see how that's kind of tying in and making a really big impact. So when we take a look at that a little bit more directly, we can see that greenhouse gas emissions from all the different, essentially the fuel types. We've got the fossil fuels on the left, then we've got all the electric options on the right. And so when you're combining essentially the 92% zero emission electricity, you've got an extremely clean way to heat and cool your home. So that's why this was a very strong choice with the Hudson and Stow team here. So, okay, what are air source heat pumps? So essentially what air source heat pumps are is a clean heating and cooling system that transfers heat in or out of a building. So essentially what that looks like is, there we go. So essentially what it is you've got an outdoor unit, a compressor unit on the outside that's connected to one or more indoor units like you see here on the inside, and it can also be connected into ductwork. So depending on what your opportunity is in your home, you can have those conversations because there are both. So what it's doing, think about it kind of like an air conditioner that can that can run forwards and backwards. We also like to say magic because it just works its magic and does its thing, and it's very efficient. And why it's so efficient is because it's using the electricity to just transfer heat, not actually generate it. So air source heat pumps specifically are 2 to 3 times more efficient than electric resistance, and are typically more efficient than most air conditioners. Just a couple of other benefits of air source heat pumps and a couple of other pictures that you see here of different styles of units. Of course, you've got energy savings, you've got quiet, efficient air conditioning and dehumidification. That's a really important part of heat pumps that you don't typically see with other types of heating and cooling, is that sort of increased comfort and control on the air quality. Again, flexible solutions for homes with or without ductwork. Do just one room, do your whole home, super flexible. So again, more control over your home comfort. They're also newer technologies, so you've got smart controls. Again, can address those hot and cold spots, kind of trouble areas, or maybe just a new addition where you don't want to replace your entire heating system, but you want to at least use that new addition efficiently. And so the cost for those, the installers are going to talk in a lot more detail about that, but they're typically going to start at about $4,000 for a single zone. So ground source heat pumps, very similar to air source heat pumps. Instead of taking heat from the air, they're going to take it from the ground. And that's going to be the heat reservoir that is going to contribute that heat for the system. It's also referred to as geothermal. Have you ever heard of that? So essentially what it is, it's an outdoor ground loop. Here's a picture here of a vertical ground loop. They'll talk to you about the different options based on kind of what might work for your home. And it's connected to an indoor heat pump, and then that's connected to your distribution system. What's a little bit more unique about this is it's going to be a whole home heating solution. You can do a whole home as well with air source heat pumps, but this is in itself a whole home solution, and it can also provide hot water. And also the ground is going to be a little bit more stable year-round for temperature, so it's actually much more efficient. It's the most efficient out there at over 400% efficient. So benefits, lower operating costs for heating and cooling. Again, you've got that whole home solution, so you can replace fossil fuels entirely. Extremely long system lifetime, no above ground outdoor components. Costs for this, again, we'll dig into those details with the installers, but they're typically going to start at around $25,000 to $30,000 after incentives. But again, keep in mind that is a full whole home solution. So one of the new additions to the program that they will also talk about here tonight is the offering for heat pump hot water heaters. And essentially what that is, it's a water heater that's transferring the heat in your basement to a hot water tank. So just some of the considerations when considering a heat pump hot water heater is it's going to be a little slightly taller than the normal average water tank and does require open space, around 75 to 1,000 cubic feet. There is an opportunity where it does use backup electric resistance element for emergencies. This also does dehumidify the space. That's one of the features of it as well. And again, it's that heat pump concept. So it's using the electricity to transfer heat as opposed to generating. So it's 3+ times more efficient than a normal electric water heater. And sizes will typically range from about 50 to 80 gallons. And for this program, I believe the costs are starting at about $3,000. But again, they'll talk to you about how much that's going to cost as well. but that can often be a nice pairing with a, a ground source system to replace, if you're using, let's say, oil to heat. Your hot water, that is. And so, again, what I mentioned before about why this is a really great opportunity for folks in Hudson and Stow is to take a look at the electric rates. Now, essentially in most of the state, we're at about 22 cents a kilowatt hour for electricity. I can vouch for that. I live in Boston. It's very expensive. Hudson Light Power is just at about 10.5 cents per kilowatt hour. So it's nearly the lowest cost in the state and less than half of major utilities. So again, when you're considering the fact that these are all running off electric, they're going to be a lot cheaper to run than they may be in other places. So it's a really great opportunity. So taking a look at that all together, when you're thinking about the true cost of these systems, again, you've got a lot of the fossil fuel heating costs up here, including electric resistance with Hudson Light's rates is still up pretty high. Then you start comparing that to air source and ground source for National Grid and Eversource. And then you can see down here at the bottom, when you put all the numbers together, you essentially have a fantastic opportunity to basically have the cheapest and cleanest way to heat and cool your home with the combination of these technologies, the 92% non-emission electric supply. So a really, really great pairing here. And with that, I want to thank you for taking the time to listen here tonight, and I want to pass it along to your installers here. I think we're going to start with Boucher. I don't know if that's correct. Great. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. How you doing? Nice to have everybody here tonight. I'm going to try to just advance this. There we go. Okay. I'm Joel from Boucher Energy. Is that better? Okay. We're a heating air conditioning company that does all different types of heating and cooling systems. But for the Hudson and Stow program, we were chosen to be the installer for the air source heat pumps. So that's what I'm going to be speaking about tonight. We've been doing air source heat pumps now for over 30 plus years. They've become popular recently, but it's nothing new for us. And we've been doing all different types of heat and AC now for over 40. So for the HeatSmart program, we've done a bunch of different things working with the groups here. We have some lowered costs. We've been able to negotiate some better pricing on the systems from our suppliers, which has helped with that. All the ducted systems we put in are cold climate heat pumps. That means they're made to work at extremely low outdoor temperatures. We use a variety of different brands for the wall-hung style units that you've been seeing on some of those other slides. We use Mitsubishi. Mitsubishi is one of the largest producers of this kind of technology, and they're their biggest in the US. And they've been here for somewhere around 30 years now. Then we've used them since they came. And we also do some with Bosch and American Standard as well. So here's a couple examples of indoor units that you would see, one in the bedroom, one in the living room here. And the nice thing with these is that every single one of those is a zone. Each one is independently controlled. Here's a couple more shots of some projects we've done, a kitchen there on the left and a bedroom on the right. They also come in different colors. I get that a lot. People, want something other than white. So if you have really dark walls, or if it's in a kitchen with a lot of silver appliances, they make silver models as well. Floor standing too for low rooms. These are what's called a ceiling cassette or ceiling recessed unit. The black section of that, the black box there, that would be recessed up into the ceiling, and then the grill itself is just sort of flush on the ceiling of a room as opposed to hanging on a wall. They work the exact same way, it's just a different way to put one in. If you have ductwork in the house or you want to add ductwork so everything's hidden behind the walls, those are examples of a couple of ducted units that would be down in a basement or up in an attic. And then we would build a ductwork system off of that to supply heated or cooled air to the house. Or potentially, if you already have a air-based air conditioning system with ductwork or hot air furnace, we could replace it with one of these units. Somebody asked about cost earlier. This is just an example of one of them for a single head unit, 18,000 BTU unit. The total price on that project was a little over $6,000 there, $6,200. Hudson Light Power is doing a really nice thing. They're doing a $1,000 credit off the cost of one of these systems. There's also another small rebate from the Department of Energy, and so that brings the cost down to about $5,000 in that particular example. This is one we've actually done as part of the program. This is a house up here that has 3 indoor units in it. So the all-in price on that after electrical wiring, etc., was a little over $13,000. They got the $1,000 credit from Hudson Light Power, another $3,000 credit from the Department of Energy. It's about $8,900 was their net after that. And along with the rebates and incentives, a great new thing we can do here now is we can do 0% financing for up to 7 years. So with the Mass Save program that they offer in a lot of the towns around here, you've probably heard the ads on the radio or TV for that. That's been something that's been available for a long, long time, but it's never been available before for somebody who had a municipal electric plant. And now we can do that as well, which makes it very affordable to put in a system with the 0% financing. This is another type of heat pump, a bit different. So if you have an oil-fired hot air furnace in your house, that's a pretty common heating system around here. You can change out the, what we did here, we changed out the oil-fired furnace with a new furnace. The heat pump is on top, the indoor section of the heat pump is on top of that. That's why the box is a different color. So in this kind of hybrid system, when you turn up the heat, instead of the oil system turning on all the time, what's going to happen is the heat pump will start first in milder weather conditions. When it gets really cold out, then the oil furnace will automatically kick in, and it will dramatically lower the amount of oil somebody might use. And of course, it's air conditioning as well in the summertime. So in this example here, the combined cost of the furnace and the heat pump was $13,345. But then we'll get the $1,000 Hudson Light Power credit, another $4,650 from the Department of Energy's MPP program. So the final cost is just under $7,700, which is actually very interesting because if you didn't do the heat pump, let's assume that you had us come in and put in a new oil-fired furnace and a new AC only, not a heat pump, just a regular AC, the cost of that would actually be higher than buying the heat pump because with the you get the extra rebates there, over $5,000 in rebates on that particular system by simply choosing the heat pump instead of an air conditioner. This is another style of system that's very popular in the area in houses built in the 1990s through the 2000s. It's a hydro air heating system. I've actually been up to see some of these here in Stow already. Where on the left side of that picture you have an oil-fired boiler with the orange box, the burner on the front of it. The middle piece is an air handler, which blows heated and cooled air through your home, and on the right is an indirect fired water heater. There's a lot of homes in the local area that have been built in the last 25 years with this system. And these systems are all getting to the point now, they're old enough that you have to replace them. We replace them all the time. The air conditioners are failing, the air handlers are failing. When you replace that system, you have a choice. You could buy a new air handler and a new AC compressor unit outside, or instead of just buying an AC unit outside, you could buy a heat pump for the outside instead. When you do that, it's similar to the oil-fired furnace. When you turn up the heat before the oil-fired boiler turns on, the heat pump would turn on and heat the house, and then only when it's really cold out would the oil-fired system kick in. And of course, if you already have a hydro air system, it's just like the hydro air system you have in that it's going to do air conditioning in the summertime. Heat pump hot water heater, I'll speak about that just very briefly. It's an interesting way to be able to heat hot water, particularly if you already have an electric hot water heater in the house, and especially if you run a dehumidifier. So the easiest way for me to describe how this works. Who has a dehumidifier here in the basement? Lots of people, right? When you run that and it's taking the moisture out of the air, you'll feel all this heat blowing out of the front of that unit. So In simplest terms, a heat pump hot water heater is like taking your dehumidifier and welding it to a water tank. So when it runs, instead of the heat blowing into the basement, the heat that would be coming out of that dehumidifier heats the water. So especially if you have an electric water heater sitting over here and you're using power for that, and you have a dehumidifier over here and you're using power for that, you can put one of these devices in and do both jobs and buy the power once, as opposed to buying it twice. We're going to do Q&A after. This is an example of one of the energy audits that's being done in town with the Department of Energy's software program that's used for the MVP program. So this is the actual house in the local area. 1950s ranch with multiple additions on it over time. I'm going to skip just through these just for time's sake. I'm just going to cruise through a couple of these. But it does talk about, it shows basically an example of what you would see if we did one of these for your home. The cost of doing a new system and the projected savings. This house had an oil-fired hot air furnace in it with an air conditioner that was basically at the end of its life. So the customers were in a point where they kind of have to do something. The oil furnace has to be replaced, the AC has to be replaced. So instead of just putting back an AC, we did a higher efficiency oil furnace and a high efficiency heat pump. So on this slide, which is on all of these home energy scorecards, it shows the energy usage of the house before any improvements were made, and that could be heating, AC, and also insulation as well. That can be a component. And then shows how much it's reduced afterwards. So in this case, up there in the green one, top right, about 158 million BTUs worth of heat used in the house a year. After the energy improvements, it should drop down to somewhere around 105 million BTUs, which is a significant reduction in the amount of energy used in the house. The one on the right shows a reduction in carbon emissions, but the way the software works isn't perfect for Hudson and Stow because it's taking into account where that energy comes from, right? But it's a generic, the program's kind of generic. It doesn't take into account the fact that you guys get 92% of your power from a green source. So carbon savings here is greater than it typically shows on these. This is a couple slides that would again be in any of the reports that you would get showing energy usage before, oil usage before, electric usage before and after. Now when you use one of these systems, a heat pump in the wintertime, yes, your electric cost is going up. You're going to use more electricity. However, the oil is going to go down to a greater extent. So in this particular example, total energy savings was about 34% by switching from just the oil furnace and the AC to the oil furnace and a high efficiency heat pump. So here, oil basis originally was about 750 gallons of oil a year, and dropping that down all the way to about 178 gallons of oil, or saving 576 gallons reduced. And you can see actually on this slide, it shows the electric energy usage. That's actually going up, which would make sense because now they're going to use that system for heating, whereas before it was just being used for air conditioning. However, still our total energy cost of the year is quite a bit lower, over $600 lower. Total energy savings, about 34%. Total carbon savings, again, shows this as 6%, but it's really greater with the clean energy you guys have here. So that's my bit for a little introduction, and I'll pass it on to Bill, who's going to speak about the geothermal systems.
Hello, Bill Wenzel Heating and Air Conditioning. Family business, my son's the third generation in the heating business. We've got 44 years of heating and air conditioning, and I've been doing geothermal heating for over 22 years. Have over, well, we have more than 1,000 now, but 3 technicians that have done geothermal for over 20 years, and 3 technicians with associate's degrees. These are some of the Bolton and Harvard jobs we did last year. We did over 24 ground source heat pumps in Bolton and Harvard last year. In fact, we still have some going. Geothermal heat pumps, 50% more efficient than fossil fuels. Lowest operating costs, especially with the electric costs in your town. Reduce emissions, dependency on foreign oil. There's a 30% tax credit. Now the 30% tax credit will be going to 26%. They are trying to bring it back to the 30% from what I've heard too. AEC credits usually come about at least double the square footage of the house is what depending upon what they're selling the credits at. MVP loans, like Joel said, we can get 0% financing up to 7 years. 10-year warranty on parts and labor on the machinery. We monitor all the systems, all the loop temperatures, and efficiencies of the units. Combined with solar, you're getting basically no energy costs. No outdoor condensers, increased resale value of the home, and they're made in USA. These are some projected costs. 6-ton ground source heat pump, retrofit roughly $24,000. The borehole $16,800. The excavation allowance, sometimes that's been going away. Depends on the site conditions. Ductwork, it's roughly a $48,000 job. Federal tax credit, Hudson Light Power credit, AECs, you're down. It's been coming out about half price that you're getting the jobs for. These are some of the equipment going in. You do have some of your yards torn up to get the lines and the boreholes in the yard. That's one of the disadvantages. We do all in-house manual J calculations. It is a larger upfront cost, but less cost for operating. The only issue we've had in Bolton and Harvard was some ledge, so we couldn't get some of the boreholes into the ground. But in most cases, that's not an issue. This is a picture of a vertical ground loop system. We'll drill a well, install a pipe in the well, bentonite it, and graphite, and then heat fuse them together and bring them into the building. And that's where the transfer comes from. But now we're taking the delta from 50 degrees and just transferring into your house to 70. So that's why it's a little more efficient, because you're not using the air at 0 to heat the house, you're using the ground at 50 to heat your house. This is some of the pictures of the outside work done. These are Bolton and Harvard jobs that we did. The loops being grouted, the well rig. Yeah, the well rig drilling the boreholes, the pipes being heat fused and brought in, and the internal piping being connected up. We are doing one standing column well in Stow right now, where we're using the existing drinking water well. Most of the time, it's not cost effective unless you have a real good well to do that. But In his case, it's saving him a lot of money on the boreholes because we can use his existing well to heat the house. This is some open loop pictures where we'll take the existing water well and extract the heat from the water in the well, and then we put it back to the well, and we have what's called a bleed, which is the white pipe that you see. What we'll do is we can use the aquifer to keep the temperatures up in the water by bleeding some of the water off as long as you have a place that you can get rid of water. So we're basically pulling the heat out of the water, putting it back to the well, and when the temperature drops, we bleed some and bring new water in to keep the temperature up. So we can control the water temperatures. So this makes it a little more efficient, but there is a little more maintenance involved. Filters to keep clean, water filters. If you have a good well, it can be a good way of doing it. This is some underground ductwork we had to do in Harvard. It's definitely easier in new construction to put geothermal in. Most of our jobs that we do that already have ductwork in. We can do water systems, which I think we have a slide there on a water system. We've been doing a little more borehole per ton than the minimum because it keeps the efficiencies up on the systems also. The lowest water temp we had last year in Bolton and Harvard was 34 degrees, and that house really wasn't the greatest insulated. So that's why those temperatures, but most of them were running a lot more than 34 degrees because we monitor them. Some more pictures of that's the yard being torn up. That's one of the disadvantages. I already spoke about existing ductwork. That's the easier install to do. This is we can do baseboard, but usually we have, you need double the square footage of wall space because geothermal is the highest temperature that you really want to run them efficiently is around 120 degrees. Most baseboard in your homes now operate at around 180 degrees to get 580 BTUs per foot. To do it with forced hot water, we'd have to put a different type of baseboard in, which will give you higher temperature with lower water temp incoming. The issue is usually you have to double the square footage of baseboard. So in a lot of cases, if you've got 10 feet in a room, you've got to put 20 feet in a room, you don't have the wall space either. So the only other way you could do that is add an air handler and compensate for the lower amount of baseboard. This is a water-to-water system, which you chill the water for cooling, and you can run baseboard or radiant floor. But then you have to get into, if you're chilling it, you have to get into all of this pipe wrap, which is fairly expensive. Like they were saying, the geothermals will do full heating, cooling load. We design for this area 1 degree outside, 70 degree inside. We do put supplemental heaters in, so if you do get temperatures below 1 degree, they can kick in to supplement the heat. So you can do full total heating with the geothermal. Generators, if the power goes out, would have to be larger because of the higher amperage. And that's it. Any questions?
My slide's next.
Your slide?
So basically, the next steps would be that you can sign up for your no-cost site visit through our HeatSmartHS.org website. The reason HeatSmart HS is Hudson Stow. Then you consider any options for energy reductions. You can visit one of our open houses. This is the form that's on our website. If you look at our website, it says Get Started. You click on Get Started. This will put the form in. It automatically comes in, and you will be contacted for a no-cost site visit. Just wanted to mention again that our program is extended. Key dates, November 30th, is when you need to have ordered a site visit. You need to sign up to our system. And then our program will end officially January 15th, 2020, but that's when you need to have a signed contract because you'll have a year afterwards for installation purposes.